Welcome to Deep Dive. Ready to go deep?
Always.
Awesome. Today, we're taking a look at this blog post all about grades. It's from January 2024, and honestly, it really got me thinking.
Yeah, it's a good one. Lots to unpack there. It's interesting because you mentioned you're prepping for this big meeting about the future of education, right?
Yeah.
Well, this post highlights this study by ACT, the college entrance exam people. And they found that while grades are actually going up, ACT scores are going down. What's the deal with that?
Yeah. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? And it's not just like a couple of teachers being a little too generous, right?
Right.
This ACT study, they factored in all these different things like income, race, everything. And still, they found that grade inflation is a real thing, a measurable thing.
It is. It
It's
is.
like we're looking at an illusion of achievement.
Exactly. And think about it. This isn't just some theoretical thing about college admissions. This is real-world stuff. Think about those high school kids.
Yeah.
They're acing their math classes, feeling good, but then bam, they hit a wall when they take the ACT. So are those good grades? Are they really helping them? Or is it like a false sense of security?
It's like that elementary school in Arizona the blog post talked about. You remember that?
Uh-huh.
Third grade class, amazing report cards, stellar. But guess what? They were one of the lowest performing classes in the school's history. It's crazy, right?
It is. It is. And that kind of goes back to this point the post makes about how different teachers grade.
Oh, yeah.
Some teachers curve, some teachers pile on the homework, some give zeros for missed assignments. It's like everyone's playing a different game.
Totally. It's no wonder parents and kids are confused. I remember when I was in school, sometimes I felt like my grades were more about just getting the work done, not actually understanding the stuff. Did you ever feel that way?
All the time. And that's where this blog author, they really hit the nail on the head. This inconsistent grading, it doesn't just confuse people. It actually hurts everyone. Teachers think kids know more than they do. And kids, well, they might get a little too confident, maybe even overconfident. And that can lead to problems down the road.
Big time. And speaking of problems, the blog post talks about this ethical dilemma. They call it the D dilemma. It's about teachers feeling pressured to pass students even if they're not ready.
Oh, yeah. It's tough, isn't it? I mean, on the one hand, you want to help the student. You don't want to hold them back. But on the other hand, if they haven't learned the material...
Right. Are we really doing them any favors?
Exactly. And that's what the author is getting at. True success, it's not about the letter on the report card. It's about mastering the skills. It's about what you can do.
I like that. So it's less about chasing those A's and more about actually being able to use what you've learned, right?
Absolutely. So instead of obsessing over grades, what if we focused on what students are actually capable of? What if we could really see what they can do?
That's a great question. And it's the perfect segue into the next part of our deep dive. If grades aren't the whole picture, then what are some alternatives? And what would those alternatives mean for education? So we've been talking about how grades, sometimes they're not the most reliable, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like that D dilemma we talked about.
Yeah.
That really highlights the problem.
It does, doesn't it? It's that pressure to just push kids through.
Yeah.
But it's not really helping them in the long run.
No, it's not. It's like we're giving them a shortcut that leads to a dead end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The blog author really emphasizes this. Real success, it comes from mastering those skills, not from the letter on the report card.
Okay.
It's about what you can do,
Yeah, that makes sense. So what about these alternatives the blog post talks about, like individualized assessments? Do you think those could actually work, like in a real classroom?
I think they could. I really do. But there are definitely challenges. Think about it. 30 kids in a class, each one learns differently.
Right.
To make assessments for each one,
Mhm.
that takes a lot of time, a lot of resources. And teachers have to be on board, too.
I see what you mean. It's a big change from those standardized tests, isn't it?
Huge.
But what if it's actually better in the long run, even if it's more work at first?
Oh, I think it could be way better. Those standardized tests, they just don't show the whole picture.
No, they don't. It's like trying to measure, I don't know, someone's artistic talent by how fast they can run a mile. It just doesn't make sense.
Exactly. Individualized assessments could really let kids shine. Like, imagine a kid who's amazing at hands-on stuff, but freezes up on tests.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you think some subjects work better with this kind of assessment? Or could it be for everything?
Well, some subjects seem like a natural fit, right? Like art or music.
Yeah.
Where it's already about being creative.
True, true. But even in math or science, you could tailor things to each student because not everyone learns at the same pace.
That's true. I think the key is to match the assessment to the learning goals for that subject. Let kids show what they know in a way that works for them.
So instead of one big test, maybe some kids write an essay, some do a presentation, some even design an experiment.
Exactly. It's about giving them options. And when you do that, learning becomes more engaging. It's not just about the right answer anymore. It's about understanding and applying what you've learned.
I like that. And wouldn't that also help with those problems we talked about, like grade inflation and inconsistent grading?
It could, definitely, because if the assessment is tailored to the student, it's not about hitting some arbitrary benchmark. It's about showing you've mastered the material.
That's interesting. It almost changes who's in charge, doesn't it? Instead of students always trying to meet the teacher's expectations, it's more like a partnership.
Yeah, it's more collaborative, and I
Yeah.
think that's how people learn best. But, there are practical things to think about too. Like, teachers need support to do this,
Yeah.
and policymakers have to be on board.
Right. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's a conversation worth having for sure. Which brings us to another big idea from the blog post. What if employers hired based on portfolios instead of transcripts?
Now, that's a game changer. Instead of just seeing grades, they see what you can actually do.
It's like a window into your skills, your passions. It would be amazing. But how would it even work? Would every job need a different kind of portfolio?
Well, maybe we could have, like, industry standards, like certifications.
Yeah,
So instead of saying, I'm good at coding, you could say, I'm certified in this programming language.
that makes sense. It gives employers a way to see what you really know. But wouldn't that mean a huge change for art schools?
It would be a big change, yeah. But think about it. From a young age, kids are building these portfolios. Internships, volunteering, projects, all these things that show their skills.
So instead of just memorizing facts, they're actually using them. They're building something real.
Exactly. And it gives students control. They're creating their own story, showing what they're passionate about. But, there are downsides, too. We got to be realistic.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like what?
Well, it could be a lot of work for students. We don't want to overload them.
No, definitely not.
So it has to be done carefully. We need to make sure it's part of the curriculum, that teachers are there to help, that everyone has the support they need.
And what about fairness? Making sure everyone has the chance to build a good portfolio, not just kids who have more resources.
That's so important. We have to make sure everyone has equal access to opportunities, and that the way portfolios are evaluated is fair for everyone.
It sounds like there's a lot to think about, but the potential is huge. Imagine graduating with a portfolio that shows what you're really capable of. That's powerful.
It is. It's about seeing beyond that single letter grade. It's about embracing the whole person, the whole learner, and that's what we'll be exploring in the final part of our deep dive.
So we've been talking about how grades don't really tell the whole story, right?
Yeah, it's like a tiny little peek through a keyhole.
Yeah.
There's so much more to a student than just their grades.
Exactly. And this whole portfolio idea from the blog post really gets me excited. Imagine employers actually seeing what someone can do, not just what their grades say.
Right. It's like instead of just saying, oh, I got an A in biology, you can show them the actual projects, the experiments.
Yeah. It's way more convincing, isn't it? But how would that even work? I mean, would every job need a different kind of portfolio?
Well, that's where it gets interesting. Maybe we could have some kind of like industry standards, kind of like certifications.
Oh, I see what you mean.
So instead of saying, I'm good at coding, you could say, hey, look, I'm certified in Python.
That makes a lot of sense. It gives employers a way to know, like, okay, this person actually has the skills.
Exactly.
But wouldn't that require like a total makeover of our education system?
It'll be a big shift, that's for sure. But imagine if from a young age, kids were building these portfolios right alongside their regular classes, internships, volunteering, projects, all these things that show what they can do.
Yeah, it's like school becomes less about just memorizing stuff and more about actually using what you've learned.
Yeah, it's about applying those skills, building something real.
And it gives students a voice, right? They get to show off their passions.
Absolutely. But we got to be realistic. There's some downsides too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like what?
Well, it could be a lot of work for students. We don't want to overload them.
No, definitely not.
It has to be done thoughtfully,
Mm-hmm.
Integrated into the curriculum with teachers there to guide them. And we need to make sure everyone has the support they need.
And what about fairness? We have to make sure that everyone has a chance to build a strong portfolio, right? Not just kids with, more resources.
You're absolutely right. Equal access is so important. And the way those portfolios are evaluated, it has to be fair for everyone. No biases.
This is a lot to consider, but it's exciting. Imagine graduating with a portfolio that really shows what you're capable of.
It's powerful. It's about seeing beyond that single-letter grade and recognizing that every student is unique.
Well said. This deep dive has really been eye-opening. We've talked about the limits of grades, explored alternatives, and even imagined a future where portfolios are the new norm.
It's a lot to think about.
It is, but it shows that the conversation about education is changing, evolving. It makes me hopeful for what's to come.
Me too.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We hope this has inspired you to think differently about learning, about achievement, and about what success really means.
Keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep pushing those boundaries.
And until next time, keep on learning.